This is a funny point about some of the critics. 'Cause I saw a comment in my Discord the other day too. It's like, oh, these fucking so-called debunkers out there yelling and screaming, and wish that I'd debate them and stuff. Me debating them is what they want. I mean, that's what they want. It's they want the acknowledgement. They want to draft the audience. They want the name recognition. They want the drama. It's not. There's no point to it. There is such thing as legitimate criticism. I actually made that point in the Vase video. I said, look, this there is
Well, like little staircase.
there is you need to do. You should be offering criticism, and we should be addressing actual legitimate questions about the and we are with provenance and stuff. I mean, as much as I don't think it's a legitimate complaint around provenance, it's still legit. People are going to bring it up. Like I think if you work your way through it logically, it doesn't make any sense. But again, you have to have that understanding of machining and what it would take to make that thing as a fake, and the fact that it's been around since the 80s or whatever, and these other vases since the 60s. And machinists know this. Chris Dunn knows this. But it's legit. Look, let's just call it a legitimate concern. I think we've addressed it. And that's there's totally a place for this. Like I have changed my mind about a couple things, like in the Serapeum, this and that, over time, based on new data and information, and even in some cases people's feedback and questions. And that's all for the better. Like that's what you should be doing. That's where I think there's room for legitimate debate and perspectives. But that's typically not what you see when you see these debunking channels, right? It's logical fallacies. I've talked about this endlessly. Like just these complete misrepresentations of what's being said, straw man arguments, appeals to authority, God of the gaps, like so many logical fallacies. And I understand that stuff. Like I literally the logic, rhetoric, and grammar. Like go study it. Like figure out the trivium. Like it's fundamental. It's what used to be termed a liberal education. That term's been hijacked now. But very important. And when I see that, I'm not going to spend any time responding to it. It's just a lesson I learned years ago. Like you're not going to ever win that. Like there's no point, because people aren't arguing to find the truth. They're arguing so that they don't lose. And you end up the goalposts get shifted. You spend all day pointing out how arguments aren't valid, and it doesn't matter. Your words will get twisted. The goalposts will get shifted. They'll move on to the next thing. They'll never acknowledge the points that you make. Stuff like that. And then there's another element to it which I've not talked about much that I want to talk about. I'm going to do an audio podcast here soon. In fact, I think I'm going to invite Kyle along for this one. The other element to this that I was thinking about that is quite strange to me. Responding only puts money in their pocket. That's right. So a lot of them, that's what they want. I hope this forces a bit of a change in their view. And I don't think it has to necessarily be the future. It should be soon. Like I think we're at a point now with this evidence they can't ignore it. They have to start accounting for some of this precision. I think there's enough in this they've got to drastically reevaluate. It's the same perspective I always have. Will this make them admit that there's a precursor culture? Probably not. But it might force a reimagining of what their capabilities of the dynastic Egyptians were, and that will then force a discussion of how come we have no evidence for those capabilities in that civilization, right? So we've got, this is we have tools and we have techniques that are drawn on the walls. Those tools and techniques can't explain these artifacts. That's what we're showing. They can explain. This is my whole Tale of Two Industries thing. I think it's the baseline for legitimate criticism on the story of history, and these early civilizations. There are artifacts and objects that are explainable by these tools and techniques. The tools we found, the techniques we've seen drawn on the walls, and the things they talked about. Alabaster vases, hand carved boxes, hand carved statues, stuff like that. The glyphs, all explainable. Then you've got this other category of artifacts that really aren't explainable, and the vases are the most important ones of those because of their particular timeline, because they all fade out after the very early periods, and because so many of them are incontrovertibly pre-dynastic. Now, I think a lot of the other stuff's pre-dynastic too. I think that the boxes and the columns and the statues are pre-dynastic too, the precision ones. But because these are massive objects, they're not. You can't bury them with you. You can't move them. They're on a site. That site gets used over time and thousands of years, and other people write their name on it. It becomes much harder to make that argument. I think from a technological perspective, you can make the argument, but Egyptologists don't care about technology and machining. They care about whose name is written on it. So they're never going to admit that, this statue or this thing might have been here before dynastic Egypt started, right? You can't say that about these vases. The vases are pre-dynastic, and a lot of them are early dynastic. They fade out after the 3rd and 4th dynasty. They just don't attribute them to other civilizations because they probably found all of them, and all the kings that collected them buried with them, like Giza, 50,000 of them buried with him. And even in that collection, there's plenty with names of kings from the 1st and 2nd dynasty and pre-dynastic people before that. And they're like, oh shit, he's been robbing tombs to get these. What makes you think the pre-dynastic people weren't robbing tombs or finding them somehow and getting them from a cache or a source somewhere? So that's why the vases are important. And I think that's the onus, and this is the burden of proof argument, right? This is the people that say these can be made by hand, and they can be made by the techniques and tools shown on the walls of the tombs and with the tools they found in the record, in the archaeological record. The burden of proof is on them to show that. No one has done that. Might be people trying. I wish them the best of luck. I'm extremely skeptical that it's possible, but I don't know. Maybe it is. I very much fucking doubt it. But maybe it is. But the burden of proof is on them. It's not on me. I got me and the machinist and everybody else are pointing out that this shit ain't possible with those tools. It's just like looking at the precision, and you've got expert opinions and expert manufacturing people and expert machinists and expert people and stonemasons and everybody else that are experts in this trade saying, no, it's not possible. And then you've got a bunch of people who aren't expert in any of these things. They're not metrologists. They're not machinists. They're not engineers. They're not stone carvers. They're not any of these things. They're just fucking skeptics. And they're out there saying, no, it is possible. It's totally possible. Then go do it and prove it. And no one's done that. Burden of proof's not on me. Burden of proof's on these people who say they know how it was done. I'm not saying I know how this was done. But no, I'm grifting and scamming and all this shit. That's where they end up, right? That's what they end up saying, because it's anti-establishment, it's anti-mainstream. So it's a stupid set of arguments. Anyway, there you go. Literally, I've had to talk Chris Dunn through this for a couple of years, and I'm very happy to say that he. Actually, it's a story, or maybe I don't know if I should share it or not. But he did actually contact me when I was in Egypt and say, listen, he finally kind of saw the light in terms of that, because he realized how angry and bent out of shape he was getting about some of the criticism he gets from the internet people, which is not a flavor of criticism that he's typically used to, And I'd been talking to him for years about, you just got to let that shit go. You got to ignore it and understand that if you respond to it, that's what they want, and it's not a. And he knows that the arguments they're making are invalid. That's the game. Like, they're doing this deliberately to try and create drama and get a response out of you. And the best thing you can do is never mention their name and don't respond. And just ignore them. And I think he said that he had found a new way of looking at things in terms of that criticism and that perspective. And I think, we talked about it quite a long time, actually. I spoke to him for about an hour from Egypt. He'd been trying to call me for a couple of days while I was in Egypt. It was cool. It was a very good thing. I was very happy to hear that, because it's this new media. It's a new world, And a guy like Chris, people can say what they want about me. I get pissed when people say shit about him. Like, I just have so much respect for what he's done and the role he's played and the work that he's put in, the primary research. Like, he has literally, move this field forward. I'm not doing that sort of primary research. Like, a lot of my stuff, I'm reporting on what he said, and I'm putting my own spin on it, my own, lost civilization thing. So, but yeah, I do get mad when they go after him. So people that go after him and call him names, they definitely aren't making my Christmas card list. You know what I'm saying? I don't really care if people say shit about me. It's fine, because I genuinely don't care. I think a lot of it's pretty funny, and this leads me to the point I've been trying to make, which is this other aspect of this stuff that I want to talk about, because I think it's, when you think about it, it's kind of telling And that is when they go straight, when I get caught, and this happens a lot, you get called like a con man or a grifter. That argument, like I saw someone put out a video the other day, is like, how is that saying that I'd conned Joe Rogan and I'm making a career out of selling the snake oil and, just lying. Like they literally think that I'm in it for the money and I'm making this shit up to take advantage of people and I'm running a deliberate con on people. Like that's quite a fucking leap. You got to think about, you're so confident that you're right, that you know how the world works and what happened and you understand everything to the point that there's no room in your worldview for other people to have a legitimate other interpretation of the evidence. So the only answer has to be that they are deliberately lying and conning people for money. That's what they're saying when they say the guy's grifter or he's a con man. It's just all snake, like he's bullshitting you, deliberately like lying to you. Like that's where their mind is at. And that should tell you something about their state of mind and about their own processes of thinking. Like it's fucking ridiculous to think that there's literally no room in your perspective for somebody to have basically an alternative viewpoint to you. Like, I think this is one of those fields where, there's lots of different interpretations of the evidence. I happen to think that based on the evidence that I've seen, and I try to take into account all the evidence, we've talked about the carbon-14 dating and the wood in the step pyramid and the bent pyramid and stuff, and the Khufu glyph and all these other things that are part of that argument. I still think that my interpretation of the evidence, including all of the adjacent fields of science, cataclysm, human timeline, genetics, the technological aspects of it, the machining, the artifacts, the contradictions in it, all of that, everything. I think the best interpretation of that evidence still is what I've been saying it is, and what many other people like Hancock say that it is that there was a advanced civilization that existed long in the past, and they created a lot of this stuff, and then this gets, they get wiped out through cataclysm, and it gets inherited and comes to us through this lens of other, of what we know of as ancient civilizations that are relatively primitive relative to us, the Bronze Age, blah, blah, blah. But I can understand that, this is a very murky field, right? You're looking through this lens of thousands, if not tens of thousands of years of occupation and change and erosion and dilapidation and rebuilding and reuse and renovation, all these things. So it's difficult to ever say for sure what the answer is. I do think there's a reason why this stuff's important. We've talked about that too, and I'll definitely going to get into that in this book that I'm writing about why I think this journey and this trying to find this answer is important and what it could mean for humanity if we do actually accept that concept. All this is a long way of saying that then you just got these fucking people that are so angry, and I think a lot of it comes from either jealousy or anger or something where they're just these grifting con men in the the lost ancient tech world. And no doubt there is some crazy wacky ideas in this field, right? I'm not saying I believe what everybody that's on the other side of the fence from the archaeologists says is true, and I certainly don't. And no doubt there's some wacky craziness going on out here, but that's the nature of anything alternative, right? You can't tar me with that brush, despite them trying. That's one of the major tactics that obviously the mainstream uses, is to say, well, look at all these, and literally Michael Shermer tried to do it to Graham Hancock on the Joe Rogan podcast. Look at all these fucking crazy people out here. You're just one of them. I can wrap you all up into a big bundle and call you all crazy. That's not how it works. I've been thinking about this. It's the people that yell and scream and think that people are literally conning deliberately for money. Anyway, it's just a perspective I haven't really said much about, but I intend to a little bit. It just makes me laugh when I think about these people that think that's for some, like, it's so dumb. I'm not in it for the fucking money either. Just personally, people that know me, or I've talked about my past as well. If I wanted money, I wouldn't be doing this. I can make a lot more money in IT. I was making a lot more money in IT, and I quit. I didn't get fired. I didn't do anything. I had tons of job offers all over the place. I could still go back and do that anytime I wanted to. And, I'd make 10 times the money I'm making doing this, but I enjoy doing this. But the idea that I'm like grifting or making shit up is it's kind of hilarious. And I think it's very revealing as to the mental state and the acumen of the people making those accusations, is what I'd say. I understand a lot of the mainstream perspective on it and the reasons why they're head in the sand about some of these things, right? It's particularly with the academics. It's tied up. I really do understand. It's like a priest in a religion. It's, your identity and personal powers is attached to this concept of you being the expert in this particular story, this interpretation of history. And I can understand how you would, deliberately ignore evidence and data when it's challenging to you, and be aggressive and hostile towards ideas that are pulling the rug out from underneath you. I mean, it's the nature of establishment. But these cats on YouTube have got no stake in any of that. They're just punters on YouTube that are like, I'm fucking correct and I'm the smartest person in the room always, and this guy's just deliberately fooling everyone, and I'm going to go and make videos about him and make sure and tell them that that's what's happening. Maybe take a deep breath, take a step back, and reevaluate a few things in your own life. It might be better. Anyway, I'm not defending myself. I'm not responding to them. I just think it's funny. And again, when I do respond to some of this stuff, I do it very generically. Like in that last Vase video, I said certain skeptics have said this about that. I'm not naming them. I'm not giving them any publicity. I'm not pointing people at videos or channels. Like I just won't do that because I know that's what they want, and it's a waste of my time. And again, if there's legitimate perspective, and as I've said this before too, a few of the guys that have made videos and content about me, I've swapped emails with them. I've said, look, if you want to actually get a response out of me, and you want to have a debate, then I'm willing to do it, but not on this medium and not on this platform, and certainly not on my channel, because I know that's what you want. I said, if you want to actually ask me and get into a back and forth, then come to my website. All my videos are on my website. You can post comments beneath them. Some videos have got 10, 12 comments. Some have 2 or 3. But I actively read everything and I respond to them, and I will respond to you there. And it's because no one's ever done it. It's because it doesn't have the eyeballs. Like it's not what they want. They want to do it in front of the full audience. They want to do it in front of my audience. They want my audience to come to them, And, this is all apart from the other element of all of this, which is I just despise reaction content. Which none of these idiots are making up their own content. They're just trying to tear down other people's stuff. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to make a video because by watching my video and just saying nasty things about it. It doesn't get any lower effort than that, I just despise that mode of content. And I've said before, no doubt it works. Like so many people make a lot of money and a good living on YouTube doing reaction content, and I just despise it. It's the laziest form of content, and I don't want to play into it. I say this all the time. I'm in the wrong industry. I don't like anything about social media. I hate using it. I don't actually want the attention. Yet that's the game. I'm literally in the attention game. I'm sure there's people out there that are like social media experts and like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you not leveraging all of these things? I'm like, yeah, it is. Getting paid on Twitter is new now.
And in fact, over here.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to go?
I'm not.
No, I've been talking.
And it's like Facebook to see. I'm so stupid. Like, Johanna makes all this money on Facebook. She got all these Facebook followers, and they keep telling me, like, there is somehow some way to connect like Instagram followers to Facebook, and then I'd have enough people where you can get paid on Facebook. I looked at it, I couldn't make it work, couldn't figure it out, and I just gave up. I don't care. And yeah, Twitter's way too toxic for my liking too. I don't like it at all. It's like I said, I'm not cut out for this career. Like I don't like social media. And yeah, but that's the game I'm in, right? And I just don't leverage the platforms that I have. Whatever. I'll live with it. I don't care. Well, there's a couple of these open, but they don't let you. They're obviously not letting you walk around up here at night time. But you can visit Giza on your own. I've done it before. As long as you know how to handle the vendors and you can just ignore them, then you'll be okay. But you won't get away with much. Like if you even put a foot on the pyramid, you're going to get, whistles blown at you, and they love to yell at tourists. Actually, it was really funny. I saw it happening. I'd sort of teased them a little bit because I know we were. Because I've done this before. I go there on my own and I can't do anything. And then if I go with Yusuf and stuff, because he literally is paying people the whole time, they'll let us climb. Like the third pyramid, we're like halfway up that motherfucker. There are people like walking up, up a few courses and stuff, and they're just. And I was like, this is really cool that people are up there. And Yusuf's like, you know, why do you think that is? It's like, I know why it is, but someone said it to me. I'm like, look at Yusuf. Like, he's literally paying guys the whole time. And they talk to him and they know him, and it's kind of this arrangement. But you'd have trouble doing that even if you were trying to offer money to them to do that. They're probably just going to tell you to bugger off because you're Westerner and you're not a local. And I mean, the locals can get away with a lot more, just local regulars, because they just ignore these guys half the time. And our tendency is, oh shit, there's a man in a uniform blowing a whistle at me, I'm going to do what he says. But, yeah, you're just going to get harassed. So, but I remember I was sitting, we went around the back of the second pyramid, and it kind of like drops around, as it comes around the corner to the north side where the entrance is, it's in the shade, and it sort of drops down a bit. So I was up a couple levels, and I just sort of walked around the corner and sat where they could see. I was on the north side, just on the corner, around the corner from the north side. I'm like 2 courses up, I'm just sitting there. And I could see these guys, like, because it's, you know, several hundred feet away down to the entrance. Like, these things are massive. But Yusuf and the whole group is sort of around the corner to the left. They're on the, I guess, what would that be? The western side. And I was ahead of them. I'm just sort of sitting there watching. And I could see these guys look at me. They see me, and they're like waving their hands and blowing their whistles. I just straight ignore them, like not even looking. I'm kind of at the side of my eyes in the sunglasses. You can see him yelling and trying to wave at me, get me down, and then it's just start marching over and walking. I'm like, all right. And I see him come around the corner, and literally as he gets to within like 100 feet or so of me, probably about the distance where he can start yelling and gesturing, and that's when Yusuf and the group come around the corner. And he just looks and he's like, it just sees that it's Yusuf, and he's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, and it just, and I just started laughing, because I'm like, he was totally looking forward to probably like using his authority to tell me to get the fuck down or whatever. And then he just sees that it's, oh no, it's okay, it's Yusuf, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to mess with it. I hope you all enjoyed that video. I'm trying to make these things a bit more of a regular upload to my second channel here, the UnchartedX live channel. So please do consider subscribing to this channel. That really helps me out. Big thanks to DubSelectorr for taking the time to edit these videos. Very much appreciate his help on this. Also, if you want to catch me live over on Twitch, I am streaming 2-3 times a week. I generally announce when I'm going to stream in my Discord. So if you want to join the Discord, take a look below in the comments. There'll be a link to the Discord. And if you like the work that I'm doing, please do consider supporting the channel through the value for value model. There's lots of ways that you can support the work that I'm doing. It's all outlined on my website. It's unchartedx.com/support. We'll catch you in the next one.